Hello and very warm welcome at Amish Cycle 5858. I am Amish Cycle. Following news have been reported by American, European, Asian, African, Australian news channels and the news agencies. So please, let's go to the headlines.
Most watched, most trusted, now on Disney Plus every night. Tonight's breaking news, just as we come on here, many of Jeffrey Epstein's emails released. Donald Trump mentioned in several of them what Epstein says about Trump. Also breaking tonight, this vote to end the shutdown this evening. Google Live to the Hill. First, the Jeffrey Epstein emails tonight. How Democrats obtaining thousands of documents from the Epstein estate, including emails about Donald Trump. How a 2011 email from Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell describes Trump. Also, late today, after weeks of delay, Speaker Mike Johnson swearing in a new Democrat in the House from Arizona. Moments later, she was the final signature in this bipartisan effort to get a vote on the Epstein files. And at the White House, the last-minute effort to try to convince a Republican congresswoman to change her mind on the release of the files. The head of the FBI was there, the Attorney General was there. What the Congresswoman decided. Also breaking tonight, the House back in session for the first time in 54 days. The vote tonight on the Senate bill to reopen the government. It won't come soon enough amid this. Like so the airlines are now saying tonight about flying the days. Tonight's largest lethal aircraft carrier is now near Latin America, the USS Ford. Tonight, Venezuela now responding. So what is the U.S. planning? Martha Raddatz standing by. The weather forecast tonight. Growing questions about her daughter's disappearance, her 9-year-old girl. Not charged with the disappearance, but what she was charged tonight. Back to tourists. American Grant tells all over the world here in these given less than an hour to get out of for NFL's now. Late night Jimmy Kimmel's emotional tribute. Dallas Health tonight, and we heard from so many of you about the spectacular light show in the skies over America. What you sent in of the Northern Lights. Also tonight, Adele to act in her first movie, What It's About, and an historic end tonight. The last penny has been made. From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight. With you. Tonight.
On a serious note, today, the migrant truck driver accused of killing 3 people after making an illegal U-turn will face a Florida judge. He's pleaded not guilty to 3 counts of vehicular homicide and was brought to Florida from sanctuary state of California, where when he was given a commercial driver's license by failing key English tests, Florida Attorney General James Upmeyer joins us now. Mr. Attorney General, thanks so much for joining the program.
Thanks, Lawrence.
So a lot of Americans are upset about this because although California is a sanctuary state, the policies that they are passing affect us all. Tell us about what you guys are doing in Florida to push back against this.
Sure. Well, first we're going to prosecute this guy in court to the fullest. He's looking at many decades behind bars before he would ultimately get deported. And here's the thing. Our investigation shows he failed his CDL license exam 10 times in the 2 months before this tragedy took place. We are investigating criminally and civilly not only the license company that wrongfully gave him this license. He cannot speak English. But we're also suing California and Gavin Newsom in the United States Supreme Court. Because we can do everything right here in Florida. We're a law and order state. It's illegal to give any license to illegal aliens. But when California engages in this awful behavior, we are harmed. We suffer. So we're going to hold them accountable in court.
You know, my father is a truck driver. Apparently, this issue is pervasive in the field. This is what the Secretary of Transportation had to say the California governor and his state were caught red-handed after weeks of claiming they did nothing wrong. Now we've exposed their lies. 17,000 illegally issued trucking licenses are being revoked. So you're getting some backup from the federal government.
We're happy to have their support. We stand by them. I think what California is doing is wrong, and we're going to hold them accountable.
I want to get your comments on another story because you are now seeking the death penalty for a man that was indicted for sexual battery on children. Explain to me the rationale. A lot of people, since the beginning of time, have been calling for this, saying that these individuals cannot be rehabilitated. People that mess with children in this sick way. Do you think you're going to face some legal challenges, though, on this?
We will face legal challenges. I know we're running headlong into an old Louisiana versus Kennedy Supreme Court opinion where they said child sex battery offenders are not eligible for the death penalty. Here in Florida, we would like to see them revisit that. We were the first state to again make child sex offenders death penalty eligible. And yesterday, we indicted a man who raped multiple little kids as young as 3 years old. This is a heinous act that shakes the core of our human society. It is wrong. I do not believe this individual can be rehabilitated. We want to send him to meet his maker and face the ultimate form of justice.
As my pastor likes to say, offer him Christ and pull the switch. Sir, thanks so much for joining the program this morning.
I'm Steve Juicy. I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe. On this Wednesday night, explosive emails released about Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump.
Jeffrey Epstein's talking about, I think, pretty serious stuff, disturbing stuff.
What did the U.S. president really know about the convicted sex offender and when?
These emails prove absolutely nothing.
A major corruption investigation in Ukraine, the $100 million in kickbacks and resignation of top politicians. Grim prognosis.
I don't want to practice fast food medicine. My patients deserve better.
The new pay structure that has hundreds of Quebec doctors looking to leave the province. Plus, extending more than a Christmas tree branch. What's behind Nova Scotia's big present to Boston? Good evening and thanks for joining us. A massive new document dump is reigniting questions about U.S. President Donald Trump's ties to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Some of them suggesting Trump knew more about Epstein's abuse than he's admitted publicly. Among the more than 20,000 pages released by House Democrats and Republicans are emails between Epstein, who died in jail in 2019, and his associates. In one email to a journalist, Epstein, referring to Trump, wrote, "Of course, he knew about the girls." The documents were obtained by subpoena from the Epstein estate and have not been independently verified. Jackson Prosco has our top story on those emails and how the White House is reacting.
The thousands of emails from Jeffrey Epstein's estate show the convicted sex offender mentioned President Donald Trump repeatedly.
These emails prove absolutely nothing other than the fact that President Trump did nothing wrong.
In one 2011 email to Ghislaine Maxwell, his convicted co-conspirator, Epstein wrote, "I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump," adding that an unnamed victim spent hours at my house with him. Republicans claim that victim is Virginia Giuffre, one of Epstein's most prominent survivors, who previously said she never witnessed any wrongdoing by Trump before her death by suicide. In another message from 2018, Epstein wrote, "I know how dirty Donald is."
It's clear that Donald Trump had a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein is talking about, I think, pretty serious stuff, disturbing stuff in these emails.
On social media, Trump called the latest revelations part of the Jeffrey Epstein hoax.
A lot of pressure now needs to be put on the Department of Justice to release more and more documents, so the public can really understand exactly what the breadth and nature of what happened with the whole.
Breaking news just in: the longest government shutdown in history is one step closer to coming to an end. Moments ago, the House voting to reopen the federal government. The next stop, the president's desk. The more than 40-day standoff set to end with tonight's House vote. The path to the president's desk cleared after several Democratic senators flipped to side with the Republicans. Democrats ultimately unable to secure an agreement to renew expiring Obamacare tax credits. Also breaking tonight, thousands of pages of Jeffrey Epstein's emails released. Donald Trump's name appearing multiple times. Epstein alleging that Trump, quote, knew about the girls and once spent hours at his house with an alleged victim. The White House firing back tonight, saying the emails prove nothing. What the new documents potentially reveal. New twist in the search for missing 9-year-old Melody Buzzer. Her mother recording the Alex she threatened a friend with a box cutter. Stunning sky show northern lights dancing across the night sky, visible as far as Florida. Where you can see them again tonight. Penny for your thoughts, maybe not. The fight today, the 1-cent coin going away. Around the amazing image is a humpback whale breaching off the coast of California. How's this for a photobomb? Nightly News starts right now. This is NBC Nightly News.
Good evening. I'm Jeff Bennett. Ata Navaz is away. On the News Hour tonight, the House of Representatives returns to Washington to take up a bill ending the ever government shutdown. President Trump faces fresh questions about his friendship with the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. His newly released emails mention the president multiple times. And children from Gaza who suffered debilitating wounds of war receive treatment and a new life in the U.S.
We can't give them back everything that they've lost, but we can start to put those pieces back together.
From the very beginning, we said to the American people, and more than that, to our public, small town America, and of course, credit.
The longest shutdown in history, make people who are on SNAP benefits worried about getting food, members of the service, military, on and on and on. Air traffic controllers wasn't worth it.
Donald Trump and Republicans.
Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Israeli forces killed 3 people in Gaza over the past 24 hours, despite the U.S. brokered ceasefire. The United Nations accused Israel of denying essential aid from entering Gaza, including 1.6 million syringes to vaccinate children and nearly 1 million bottles of baby formula. UNICEF said Israel's actions are preventing efforts to immunize more than 40,000 children under the age of 3 who missed routine vaccines against polio, measles, and pneumonia. Meanwhile, Palestinians across the Gaza Strip are forced to use flashlights and private generators due to lack of electricity. Israeli attacks have destroyed 80% of Gaza's electricity distribution networks. This is Hanan al-Juju, a displaced Palestinian mother of 3 in Nuseirat.
It's been 2 years without electricity. We have not seen it. In Rafah, during the first displacement, we tried to light a candle, but we stopped for the sake of the children, fearing it could burn the tent. We tried a simple LED light, but it broke. We do not have the money to fix it. We tried to get a battery, but it's expensive and unavailable.
In the occupied West Bank, dozens of masked Israeli settlers attacked the Palestinian villages of Beit Lid and Der Sharfon.
It's 5 o'clock. I'm Mark Austin. This is the News Hour, 60 minutes of news, analysis and interviews. We begin right now with the top stories this hour. Revealed the missed warnings and safeguarding failings that left schoolgirl Sarah Sharif trapped at home with her killers. The Prime Minister and his team under pressure over hostile briefings as Sir Keir Starmer denies they came from Number 10.
I've been assured it didn't come from that trip. I'd be equally clear that whether it's this case or any other, I intend to deal with it.
Also ahead, the hack that brought economic growth per head in the UK to a standstill, the latest economic data and its impact on the upcoming budget. And the desperate migrants trapped in Libya's detention centres will bring you the second of our special reports from Alex Crawford. Good evening. All too often we have begun this programme with the safeguarding failings surrounding the avoidable death of a vulnerable child.
Information.
This is DW News live from Berlin. France marks 10 years since the Paris terror attacks. President Macron joins the tribute to the victims. Terrorists targeted several locations in the capital, killing 130 people in the worst attack on French soil since World War II. Also on the programme, Germany's coalition government agrees a plan to bring back military service to boost troop numbers to deal with the perceived threat from Russia. But voluntary conscription could become compulsory if not enough recruits come forward. And water in Iran's capital is becoming scarce as the nation grapples with its worst drought for decades. Officials warn Tehran may soon become uninhabitable. Experts say the government is partly to blame.
It's Thursday, the 13th of November. Our top stories. The longest ever U.S. government shutdown finally ends as a new wave of documents raise more questions about Donald Trump's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. While the U.S. president urges his Israeli counterpart to pardon Benjamin Netanyahu of long-standing corruption charges. India declares a car bombing that killed 8 people a terrorist incident. And the Japanese village struggling to keep a local macaque population away from residential areas. You're watching The World. Hello, I'm Girish Solani.
Headline news this hour. France marks 10 years since the nation's worst terror attacks, during which Islamic State attackers killed 130 people in a rampage across Paris. President Emmanuel Macron is visiting every attack site to pay tribute to the victims throughout the day. The assault in 2015 began with suicide bomb blasts that killed 1 person outside the Stade de France and continued with gunmen opening fire at 5 other locations in central Paris, most notably the Bataclan concert hall. Israeli settlers have torched and defaced a mosque in the West Bank, a day after some Israeli leaders condemned recent attacks by the settlers against Palestinians. Now, according to residents, the fire was put out before it could spread much further. At least 3 copies of the Quran were burnt. Hateful messages in Hebrew were scribbled on one of the walls. The Israel military say they are reviewing the incident. Pakistan says Afghan nationals carried out 2 suicide attacks in the country this week, including one in Islamabad. The blast outside a court in the capital on Tuesday killed 12 people and wounded 27, while another attack on a military school near the Afghan border on Monday left 3 dead. The Interior Minister has blamed the Afghan Taliban administration in Kabul for supporting Islamist militants who attack Pakistani forces. And Bangladesh's interim leader Muhammad Yunus has announced a February referendum on a blueprint for democratic reform called the July Charter that aims to put in place changes that will forestall any return to authoritarian rule. The vote on the proposal will be held on the same day as parliamentary elections that Mr. Yunus has promised will be free and fair. And that's the latest from the CNE newsroom.
Africa News. The news.
South Africa's Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana has rejected Donald Trump's false claims of a genocide being carried out against white Afrikaners. The US president said his nation would boycott the G20 summit in Johannesburg because of this.
South Africa, like many nations around the world, is grappling with intensifying global competition and mounting economic and political divisions. It is against this fractured landscape that South Africa has been falsely accused of genocide against its white community and threatened with punitive sanctions based on falsehood. Let me thank the many communities here at home and around the world that have rejected the false narrative and the fear, hate, and disinformation they represent.
The South African government and numerous Afrikaner and other groups and organizations in the country have repeatedly refuted Trump's allegations. Government officials in Cameroon have updated the death toll in last month's post-election protests, saying 16 people died and more than 800 others were arrested. Data from 2 United Nations sources estimate that at least 48 civilians were killed during the demonstrations, while opposition groups say the toll was 55. There's been widespread international criticism of the violent crackdown by security forces on the protesters. Human Rights Watch has accused the police and gendarmes of using lethal force, committing killings and arbitrarily detaining hundreds of people. The NGO says many protesters appear to have been shot dead by security forces and dozens have been left nursing gunshot wounds. It adds that some 2,000 people are being held across the country and many have not been presented before a judge. The demonstrations took place following the announcement that President Paul Biya had won an 8th term in office, with opposition parties and supporters saying the poll was rigged. At 92, he's the world's oldest state leader, and after more than 4 decades in power, young people want a change. South Sudan's President Salva Kiir has sacked one of his 5 vice presidents in a series of firings that come amid escalating internal conflict. Benjamin Bolmel was appointed in February and had been widely rumoured to be Kiir's preferred successor. The powerful vice president was also stripped of his position as deputy leader of the ruling Sudan People's Liberation Movement Party and demoted from general to private in the National Security Service. No reason was given and no successor has been named. President Kiir also fired the governor of the central bank and the head of the revenue authority, both seen as close to Bolmel. These latest changes in the upper ranks of South Sudan's government come at a time when questions are being asked about Kiir's succession amid fears of a return to civil war. Planned elections have been postponed twice, and Kiir's main rival during the civil war, First Vice President Riek Machar, was arrested in March and then charged with treason. Fighting between forces loyal to Kiir and various armed groups has escalated in recent months. South Sudan is one of few countries to have 5 vice presidents, a structure established under a 2018 peace agreement.
Doctors in Gabon say a single-dose malaria treatment could help curb the disease's growing resistance to existing drugs. Led by Dr. Ghislaine Mambongoma at the Medical Research Center of Lamborghini, researchers tested a one-time treatment combining 4 widely available anti-malaria compounds.
At the moment, it was observed that the morbidity and mortality of malaria is going up. And for that, we need solutions now. As we need solutions now, so we thought, why not make the most of existing anti-malarial drugs?
The new drug cleared malaria parasite in 93% of patients, matching the success of the standard 3-day regimen. Every time I go to the hospital, they diagnose me with malaria. After treatment and follow-up, of course, it always comes back. So it's better to protect ourselves. We need mosquito nets. We protect ourselves from dirty water. As long as there are mosquitoes, it will always come back.
On se protège des eaux sales, mais tant qu'il y a toujours des moustiques, ça viendra toujours.
For many Gabonese, malaria remains a constant struggle. Program official calls malaria a major public health problem. Malaria is a major public health problem in our country. That is according to 2024 data, more than 154,000 cases, with an incidence of 62 per 1,000 inhabitants in the general population. Unfortunately, when you take a closer look and look at children under 5, this incidence increases to 112 per 1,000 inhabitants. The single-dose approach could help improve treatment compliance,
I need that black tree TV.
You're watching Around the World with me, Angela Diffley. Our top stories today. France remembers the night of November the 13th, 10 years to the day after the terrorist attacks that left 132 people dead and 500 injured. Commemoration ceremonies have been taking place at the locations around the capital where the attacks took place. President Macron says pain remains a decade after those attacks. We'll be looking at the security threat today for France, what has been learned in 10 years and what has changed.
Thank you for watching Amish Shakil 5858. I am Amish Shakil. I hope you will visit again. Have a good life. Bye-bye.